great to be here with all of you. We're now talking about Deliver, the Deliver part of the Grow and Deliver strategy, and the Deliver initiatives, which of course underpin the 200 million in the EBITDA bridge. But before that, we do that, I think it's important to stress the strong foundation we've laid, which enables Grow and Deliver. And that's from a systems perspective as well as from a process perspective. We are now at 94% of our revenues with 4 SAP platforms, and in fact our Prism platform covers 67% of our revenues, and our ambition is over time to consolidate to one ERP system. And it has helped us a lot to create the required transparency to manage the business much better. But also from a process perspective, our 6 GBS hubs are now live with 3,000 team members executing our transactional processes. And that covers, for instance, invoice to cash, purchase to pay, record to report, but also master data. So we have much more insights and much more transparency, and therefore also much more analytics. And that all enables the Deliver results and the Deliver initiatives, whether that is across the end-to-end supply chain or whether it's that around product management. And let's now ask Jerry to come back on stage to explain us on product management.
Thank you, Martin. With the big enabler of systems and processes that Martin just referred to, we actually have been diving into product management. Before, frankly, the visibility, the transparency was not there to tackle it. But it was clear to us that we had some issues that product management should be addressing. Complexity is not necessarily a bad thing when it's complexity that the customers are paying for. But complexity is not good if it just has started to creep up because we were, frankly, legacy-wise not very organized. And in fact, the latter part is what we're tackling. If we look at our product portfolio and we look at the raw materials that go in our product portfolio, we see a very high procurement complexity. We basically have way too much raw materials, different raw materials for no specific reasons that go into similar recipes around the world. So that gives us somewhat of an unleveraged scale where we would be able to get better pricing, better costing, and better procurement power based on what we acquire. In addition to that, because of that complexity and because of that lack of coordination, we have too many single-sourced materials. Simply because in legacy, through acquisitions, plans that were very much based on a country and a country organization, people were just basically not coordinating. Too much single source materials makes it costly, but in addition, and that's what we've seen also in this raw material chaos we've seen in the last year, also makes our sourcing way more vulnerable than it should be. Last but not least, when you don't do product management, we get way too many products that are proliferating with small average batch sizes that leads to efficiency losses, yield losses, way too high production costs, etc. And last but not least, we really have not done really good life cycle management. Too many products that basically go off, or where a periphery product has been introduced newly with new labels, and therefore we have too many obsolete and inventory or slow-moving inventory. So early 2020, we saw enough light in our data, in our systems, to really start doing a systemic approach on product management. But before I get how we resolved it, let's look at a little video that explains what our daily issues around product management are for a paints and coatings manufacturer.
It's how we create products to meet our customers' needs. At the heart of each product is a recipe. Each one is translated into a set of manufacturing instructions using the correct raw materials. After it's been produced and packaged, our new product is ready for market. Over time, this process is repeated thousands of times and strengthened by new acquisitions. The number of different raw materials and manufacturing methods make it all incredibly complex. Imagine every product as a car. So a portfolio of products is like a busy highway, with each one heading to our customers. As we add cars to the highway, customers can choose from more and more different products. But, as we all know, slow movers cause delays and lots of cars cause traffic jams. Not all of these cars belong on the road. So simplifying our portfolio is the best way to get products flowing. This is where product managers step in. A product manager's task is to ensure our products form a coherent portfolio, answering our customers' present and future needs while taking internal goals and operations into account. Naturally, product managers can't do this alone. They take discussions in collaboration with a cross-functional team as part of the integrated business planning process. Collaborating with customer-facing teams helps us understand customer needs. We can create a clear assortment with the right value propositions, get real-time feedback, and flag up new opportunities. On the supply side, R&D optimizes formulation architecture, procurement gives security of supply, and delivers best value materials, while manufacturing is empowered to improve cost through greater flexibility. Product managers are responsible for balancing external and internal needs. They deliver and maintain a relevant and profitable product portfolio, enabling asset network optimization. This leads to more delighted customers and better financial performance.
Now, of course, the idea is not to give you a PhD degree in product management. That was not the goal. But it is to show on what was maybe missing in our portfolio when we looked 4 years ago on how do we really get a mature product management. In fact, in the past, it was often R&D talking to sales around a new product. Sounds good, but think about it. Sales always has a tendency to want to sell something new, and R&D always gets excited by making something new, so no wonder we get a proliferation in product portfolio. In some cases, it was the sales organization talking directly to the plant, which then gave all sorts of wild planning or lack of planning situations. For us, the product management, now with the data that we get to our ERP systems, the whole cross-view, the global procurement organization, we now, for the first time in 2020, were able to get a product management function in that really can sit in this bow tie to look at the optimum end-to-end profitability and life cycle of our products. Now, not just a theoretical exercise. What it's going to do for us is basically reduce the non-valued complexity at our customers. The ones that they want to see, the recipes they need, the differentiation they want to have. In fact, we want to increase our service levels on that, but on the contrary, where we have complexity because we were simply not organized enough, we have to take out. We want to go to much less raw materials in our basket. In fact, over time, and this is in the next couple of years, we want to get to half the amount of the raw materials that we are buying today. It's going to make it still a vast portfolio, but much more overseeable, much more standardized. We also want to go to increased batch sizes. Increased batch sizes where we really can run bigger elements. Karen Marie later will talk around the archetypes, where we can run longer batches, really avoid yield losses that we have there, and in fact have our plants really function as centers for supplying a much broader geography than they do today. Last but not least, we want to go to late differentiation. If you want to buy an exotic color for us in a specific country, in many cases it sits in a pre-labeled specific packaging for that region, and then in that specifically fully formulated in a warehouse, and that results in slow-moving and obsolete inventory. Inventory is a cash item, but frankly, when it's obsolete, it's much bigger. You may remember that 4 or 5 years ago, we had about 100 million euro a year of paint that was obsolete, not because it was bad material, but frankly, there was no customer for it anymore, and it had gone over its shelf life. We've been significantly able to reduce it, but frankly, we're kind of halfway, and there's still much more to go. And it's not only a cost reduction, it's also a much faster reaction and higher service levels when our customers really ask for it. We also want to go to a standardized packaging. We did exercises on that already. But believe it or not, in some of our places in Europe, for Deco, for example, some of our paint is in a square pot, and in another country, it's in a round pot. And frankly, that means if you have excess capacity in one country, or you want to get all your production in one specific facility, you really can't get it for there before you start making the steps to align the packaging, put the labels on later, etc. And why are we doing that? Yes, it's going to give a big advantage in sourcing. Yes, it's going to make it much more easier to plan, but it's also going to allow a really rational network optimization by taking the non-valued complexity out, but at the same time being able to have a higher service level for our customers. But enough around this somewhat attempt to explain product management to non-paint people. Let me get into some of the case studies. And the first case study that we're executing on right now, and that will significantly deliver in 2023 already to the bottom line, is the product management in decorative paints for EMEA. Europe, Middle East, Africa is a legacy business, a big business, all sorts of acquisitions that came in, with a high degree of complexity. High degree both in the raw materials, because the French plant has a different raw material basket than the UK plants, than the Polish plant, than the Belgian plant, than the Dutch plant, than the Italian plant, etc., for no apparent reason, but also different packaging sizes. We've already done a first attempt in reducing our packaging sizes for the plastic packaging, where we went from 289 plastic packages to less than 80. Still a lot, given the sizes and the shapes, but still a significant step down. But we really had a high complexity that really didn't allow us to move products around between plants. And on finished products, big differences that we have there in, again, the way it got brought to the customers, how the product portfolio is put together. Last, but what that gave is a very limited leverage between our plants. One painful example in 2020 was when, due to COVID, the stores were closed in France by orders of the government, but there was this boom, a do-it-yourself boom happening in the UK. At one point, we were sold out in paint in the UK. We could simply not make enough of it anymore. We had plenty of capacity in our French site because, frankly, their customers were closed, and we could not get a product from France to the UK because of the packaging size, because it was pre-labeled, because it was slightly different in behavior than the paint in the UK, etc., etc., etc. So that is basically something we definitely want to resolve. That results in our Europe, Middle East, Africa, in today 8,400 semi-finished products in our portfolio, formulations, with slow-moving and lots of obsolete inventory. So we did a real deep dive, methodical view on the whole portfolio now that the data is available. And where we are moving towards is getting an EMEA catalog of formulations and packaging, where every country then can pick from that catalog what they want to have. And in fact, the customer will probably get more choice instead of less choice before. 2, late differentiation. We are aggressively investing in equipment that really makes those exotic products at the real end and put a customized label on near the very end, and therefore reducing, of course, what we need to keep in inventory. This will reduce significant complexity in raw materials because we really want to go to raw material slate where basically all the formulations have to come from. And last but not least, as I've indicated, it will really help in the leveraging of the manufacturing network through the archetypes and in very much an optimization in our working capital. So what are the deliverables from this Deco EMEA product management, decorative paints EMEA product management case? We will be reducing the amount of formulations by 40%, 40% less different formulations out there. We will be able to reduce our packaging variants by about a quarter less different packaging variations. And that will result in 2030 already in about a 30 million euro EBITDA improvement, and more to come as some of the other benefits roll in. Now that will of course also then move on to other businesses, but Deco Paints is really deep diving, taking our own clutter out of the system so that we in fact can offer a broader portfolio to our customers and deliver already in 2023 to the bottom line. The second case history will be presented by Michael Friede, and that has to do with the resins. Michael?
Thank you very much, Thierry. Another important element of delivering, according to our 2023 promise, has to do with one of our key raw materials, our resins. Now, resins are used within paints as well as within our coatings formulations, and we do produce a share of the resins that we need in-house in 23 different factories right now, but we buy the vast majority on the open market. Now, it will not be a surprise if I tell you that during the supply chain constraints of 2020 and 2021, we would have loved to get our hands on more resins and other raw materials, but we couldn't. And we have quite some capacity available in resins in-house. And I'll walk you through a couple of the ideas that we will implement as part of our Deliver component in Grow and Deliver. Resins are also important for our sustainability promise that you have heard Klaas talk about, because they do represent a pretty sizable share of our Scope 3 emissions right now, where we buy the largest share of the resins outside. Now, zooming in a bit onto the 23 plants that we have in-house and the value that we think we can generate by increasing the asset utilization of those assets on the next slide. You can see here two graphs. On the top you see how we have already improved the utilization of our 23 units from 2018 to 2021. We've made a nice jump from 50 to 60%, yet 60% asset utilization for a chemical unit is not super impressive. There are fixed costs that can be diluted significantly further. So by bringing in more externally sourced resins into in-house production, we plan to increase the asset utilization there to 75% by 2023 already. And at the bottom of the chart, you can see the split of what we source externally right now for this key raw material versus what we produce in-house. And you can see how that has progressed. And right now we buy roughly 40%, 37% we produce in-house, and roughly 60% we buy on the open market. And until 2023, we plan to tip the scale here a bit, and we plan to buy not the majority anymore on the open market, but to produce the majority of our resins in-house, thereby spreading out fixed costs and sweating the assets a bit harder. That also has sustainability benefits, because it will allow us to optimize our network. It will allow us to not ship around stuff and optimize networks also with the external partners out there, our suppliers and other network partners, that we can optimize regional capacities, optimize cross-regional, cross-continental networks, and significantly reduce shipping times, shipping costs, and also increase the security of supply for this key component of our raw materials. That being said, that's the case study number 2 that Thierry has promised, and it's now my pleasure to hand over to my colleague Karen Marie to take you through the next section of Deliver.
Thank you very much, Michael. So let's now take a look into the fascinating world of integrated supply chain in AkzoNobel. So as you can see here, we are around 14,000 employees spread across the globe. We are managing around 120 manufacturing sites, more than 330 warehouses, and also supplying to customers on an ongoing basis. And we are really having thousands of customers, thousands of orders to manage. As we take a look into our ambitions for the strategy period, we have 4 main areas that we have a sharp focus on, and constantly having our customers in mind. One is really to keep the strong performance of our safety, but also to remain best in class in that area. Clearly also to have a good focus on remaining top quartile with the organizational health of our employees, that we really consider as our most important asset. Also being clear about our service levels, again, increased service levels for our customer services, and also continue to work with our efficiencies, taking out cost across our operations in general terms. And we'll really do that by having a number of enablers, as you can see here, mainly in relation to optimizing our network, digitalization, but also working with improving our integrated business planning processes. And that's really end-to-end planning all the way from demand through to supply. and really also take it to the next level of maturity in relation to customer segmentation as an example. So it becomes very clear to us what is it really that is the need, the requirements, the wishes of our customers in the different industries, in the different countries where we operate. And really also take advantage of some of the complexity reduction that you have just heard Thierry refer to as part of our product management. But again, all of that to the advantage and the benefits of our customers. So let's now try to deep dive further into the 4 areas that we are working with inside integrated supply chain. First, we have the planning area. That's really where we are working now to become more strategic. And again, we are building on a strong foundation that was part of the 15 by 20 strategy. We now also work towards, as you heard Martin already make reference to, having an ERP platform that is really strong foundation for where we want to be heading in relation to our planning optimization. And pretty much also going from having different set of numbers, having a very manual approach, now really also to utilize the systems, having more aligned processes, and therefore also be more agile into our planning and also finally delivery to our customers. From a sourcing perspective, also quite some work to be done in that area. It is really also taking the next step into the digital transformation. As we look into making, that's our manufacturing. You already heard me make reference to having more than 100 manufacturing sites to manage. And again, also really there, taking it to the next level of digitalization, taking a look at how can we further optimize, continuously take a look at cost out, but also taking a look into what digitalization can bring for us. And then in relation to delivery, really working on our order fulfillment in relation to making sure we deliver everything on time and in full, but also using our network of warehousing, both inside our plants, but also the external warehouses, again, to make sure we have very competitive lead times. So why don't we try to deep dive into each of those 4 areas? So if we start with the planning area, we're really coming from a situation with a very manual approach. We had different set of numbers, all kind of discussions as it, this number or that number, and now it's really getting into a situation where we're working towards one set of numbers. We are going to use a state-of-the-art planning suite for doing that, and that is really what our integrated business planning is about. It's both improving our processes, end-to-end demand through to supply, but clearly also the IT technology to make sure that we are doing things in a much more optimized manner and really clearly moving away from Excel file-based planning. And where we want to be heading, that is clearly having a much more agile approach. We can also more quickly turn around, but also really have planning seen as a key advantage and competitive from that angle as well. And also from an inventory aspect, clearly make sure that we have the right products in the right places at the right point in time. And all in all, I expect that we'll be able to lower with about 20% the days of inventory, again optimizing as I just outlined. And all in all, from an EBITDA improvement, that is expected to bring around 30 million by 2023. If we go to the next area, so in relation to sourcing, we have indeed, as you have already heard too, and also I've heard from quite many other industries and companies, had massive challenges here during the COVID pandemic. It's really been everything from shortage of containers, shortage of raw materials, but also logistics constraints and all kind of different challenges that we have had. So what we wish to do now as part of our digital procurement transformation, that is really to optimize our operating model. It is really to improve significantly our in-house forecasting capabilities, again using a much more up-to-date toolbox, and also working with transformation in general in the procurement space. It is also clearly, as you have already heard, reference being made to making sure that we are working more towards dual sourcing, reducing the number of raw materials in general that we used. You already heard me refer to thousands of different raw materials, and we can definitely go to a much lower level and still have a competitive portfolio. So overall, the procurement area really plays as a key enabler role for the product improvement as we go forward and for product management in particular. If we move to the make area, this is really the manufacturing space. And here we have 3 different archetypes identified. That's really where we take a look at the different product characteristics that we have and really try to utilize the asset and bring more of the similar products together or similar technologies, you can say. We have a kind of one archetype that is simple and efficient, which is around 60%. We also have a managed complexity archetype, which is around 35%. And then we have, last but not least, agile and adaptive, which is around 5% on a volume term basis. And what we are really doing here is, again, trying to make sure that we utilize the capacity we have, we utilize it even better. We are focusing a lot in on our make to stock, make to order, make sure that we don't have constant start and stop, clean, but really go into much more of a virtuous cycle, I would say, in relation to how we work out in our plants. That's really also a way to get a better throughput, get a better yield, a higher uptime, etc., etc. And then also really, this would obviously also require investments. And as you can also see on the chart here, we definitely are also being very clear with where we are investing our capital in relation to supporting the growth of the company. So very much capital shifting also from maintenance to growth. And we also expect by 2025 that we would have around 75% of the volume in each of the different archetypes that you have on the slide here. So taking a look at driving operational efficiency, continuous improvement, we can say, cost out, there's many different names we can put to this. But really what we are looking to do here clearly is on an ongoing basis, on average, to take around 3% efficiency gains out year by year, really to offset cost inflation. And clearly we are on a very good trajectory here, more to be done. We are expecting to bring significantly more, as you can also see outlined here, and also take the next steps of OPI in relation to comparison with our sites versus our peers. So a number of more things to come here, and also expecting this to bring EBITDA improvements of around 60 million euro by 2023. Still in the manufacturing area, moving on to the improved customer service, so Deliver. There are kind of 3 main areas to zoom in on here. One is really to make sure that we utilize the more than 300 warehouses that we have, some internally, some externally. Again, the closeness, proximity to customers, lead time, competitiveness, etc. is very important, but also using more modern technology in the different warehouse areas. But also making sure from a transportation perspective, especially network design, how do we utilize and actually improve in relation to the network that we have? How do we both take our plants, we take our different vendors, we also take our warehouses, we take our customers, and then really get the best out of that network? That requires quite some effort, but also provides significant improvements. And then also really very, very key, as I already alluded to, improving our service levels to customers. Make sure we understand really what it takes in the different industries for our different customers. Let's say that best-in-class order fulfillment. Raising our on time in full to 93%. That is really where we're heading. And expecting this to give around 60 million euro in EBITDA improvements. So trying to wrap up now, let's say the Deliver part, as you have heard me make reference to here, as part of our adjusted EBITDA bridge, which is really composed of 2 main blocks. We aim to deliver in total 200 million, around 50 million is related to product management, as you already heard Jerry refer to, and around 150 million out of the 200 is indeed to the integrated supply chain initiatives that I was just referring to. The continuous improvement, network optimization, working capital improvement, etc. And with that said, then I'm wrapping up the grow part of our strategy journey.
Thank you very much, Karen Marie, and I would like to invite you at this table to join Cherry and myself.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Karen Marie. Integrated supply chain. It seems to encompass a very broad range of processes, of complexities, initiatives. And I can imagine maybe some people watching are wondering what are the key metrics that they should focus on when they measure progress on your Grow and Deliver strategy?
Yeah, thank you for your question. It is indeed a fascinating space to work in. And as we talk about metrics, I would say that there's a number of different areas to take a close look at. But actually, while the integrated supply chain is mainly contributing or being a key enabler for the Grow part of our strategy, then actually the vast majority of the benefits is on the Deliver, as I just alluded to. So I would clearly say take a close look at margin improvements, so return on sales being a very important metric, thanks to the significant operational excellence and also working capital improvements we'll bring. Also another metric I would say is really take a good look at the working capital, so number of inventory days. That in particular is also another good metric to take a look at.
Margin improvements and working capital.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thierry, a question for you. Why is product management at the forefront now?
Yeah, it's a key enabler. I think Maarten talked about the ERP systems, the data systems. I think he was somewhat underselling the vast amount of work that he and his team is doing on master data, which was really high time to get that done. We have that now. The transparency is there. We now know what our products cost to make. We know what they make, etc., etc. And then the next logical step is to get product management, where we brought the capabilities in. That is, in fact, the hygiene, the big enabler, and we described the Deco EMEA situation where the product portfolio has grown organically over decades, and it's a mess if you look at it. So how can you bring it behind the scenes back? I think Michael described the same for resins. We still have a lot of resin manufacturing, but also that was not optimized. Now that we have that data, making sure that integrated supply chain knows what the business wants, having some structure in that portfolio is an unbelievable enabler for the plants. And I give an example for that. Some people who followed us for a number of years, they may be aware of the acquisition we did of the BASF industrial coatings in end of 2016. It was a bit before our time. What happened then is that whole complex portfolio with completely different raw materials was pushed into two of our existing plants in the acquisition. And that basically made two plants almost wobble in their knees because they couldn't handle the batch sizes anymore, the complexity, the systems weren't there. So what we came to figure out, in fact, in 2019 is that by trying to push the same complexity through the channel, we're never going to get to the network optimization, the archetypes, etc. And that is therefore why product management is such a fantastic enabler to get there. And the analysis we did on Deco EMEA was raising eyebrows also by the business team around how much pain we had inflicted on ourselves without having an argument on why we had done that in the past. So that's why we're going to product management as an enabler for all that work.
Right. And it was truly a lot of information that we just got, but I know that everyone is looking forward to the Q&A session later on where, of course, the both of you will be present as well. So thank you for being here with me now.